Section 1.6, Distance, Rate, and Time Problem. You may want to pause your video just for a moment and write this problem down. A motorist averaged 45 miles per hour for the first part of the trip and 54 miles per hour for the second or last part of the trip. This is a two-part trip. If the total 303-mile trip took 6 hours, what was the time spent for each part of the trip? So of course the first thing we want to do is label our unknowns. Alright, so we're going to let T represent the time for the first part of the trip. And since the total trip was 6 hours, we're going to let 6 minus T be the time for the second part of the trip. Alright, usually with these problems a chart is very helpful. So we're going to make a chart with the first part of the trip, the second part of the trip, and we are going to use the fact that rate times time equals distance. So rate times time equals distance. We're going to fill this in with everything we know. All right, we know the rate for both of these. They were given in the problem. This is 45 miles per hour and 54 miles per hour. Time we have already assigned variables to, so this is T, this is 6 minus T, and then we just use the fact that rate times time equals distance to fill this in. So 45 times T is 45T, and 54 times 6 minus T. Be careful and make sure you put this whole entire thing in parentheses. Alright, now we're just going to write our equation out. We know in plain terms that the first part of the trip plus the second part of the trip equals the whole trip, or the total distance. So now we just fill these things in. We're going to have 45T plus 54 times 6 minus T equals 303. Now we need to simplify, use our distributive property, and just solve this equation. So we're going to get 45T plus 324 minus 54T equals 303. So when we have 45 minus 54, that's going to give us negative 9T plus 324 equals 303. Now we solve for T. Subtract 324 from both sides. We get negative 9T equals negative 21. Divide both sides by negative 9. We get T equals negative divided by negative is a positive. That's 7/3. Alright, but they didn't just say solve for T. We want to know the time for each part of the trip. So this is not the answer. This is what we use to answer the questions. Alright, so here's our answer. First part of the trip took 7/3, or that's 2 1/3 hours, or you may want to say that is 2 hours and 20 minutes. Second part, remember that was 6 minus T, so that's 6 minus 7/3. That gives us 11/3. Which is 3 2/3 hours, or you may want to say that is 3 hours and 40 minutes. And as always, when we do an application problem, you should go back and check your solution.